Welcome back. Today we're looking at a monologue by MK Tali Gotliv. It's this really dense, passionate piece on everything from judicial overreach to October 7th.
It's a lot to unpack. Let's just get right into it.
Okay, so the first thing that jumps out is that opening attack on the Supreme Court, about the Ben Kfir hearing.
Right. The claim that they set the date for March 24th just to, quote, keep the agitation alive.
Yeah. She's basically saying the judges are in a back room, plotting to weaken the government.
And that's the problem right there. The whole argument, it lacks argumentative rigor.
How so?
Well, it's built entirely on I know what they're secretly thinking. It's mind reading. It's not a legal argument. And you lose anyone who isn't already, completely on her side.
But doesn't that kind of rhetoric play really well with her base? I mean, they already believe the court is against them.
Oh, for sure. It plays well. If the goal is just to rally the troops, it's fine. But if the goal is to actually prove judicial overreach,
It's a liability.
it's a huge liability because it's so easy for a skeptic to just dismiss it as like a conspiracy theory. Oh, so the judges are villains from a movie? You need an argument that works even if the listener doesn't already hate the judges.
So the suggestion is to pivot, move away from the speculated motive?
And move toward procedural anomaly.
Exactly. Okay. So instead of they're plotting against us, the argument should be what?
It should be, this timeline is a bizarre violation of standard judicial procedure. Forget why they're doing it. Focus on the what.
So practically she could say something like, let's compare this to other urgent cases involving ministers.
Yes, that's the winning move. You say, look, normally, when a minister's job is on the line, the court expedites the ruling. They have to for stability.
A 6-month delay is not normal.
It's completely irregular. That's a fact you can point to on a calendar. It's not a feeling about their intentions. You create this idea of
A governance limbo.
That's perfect, yes, governance limbo. The argument becomes, by delaying, regardless of their intent, the court is effectively paralyzing a branch of government.
That's a much harder argument to counter.
It is. You can laugh off a conspiracy theory. You can't just laugh off a 6-month procedural delay that's, totally out of step with precedent.
It grounds the whole thing. It forces the question, wait, why is it taking so long? Instead of just, is she right about their secret plan?
Exactly. It turns a partisan complaint into a real structural critique of the institution itself.
Okay, so speaking of structural critiques, let's talk about the next section, the rule of clerks. She's really in her element here, right? The Civil Service Commissioner, Justice Yitzhak Amit, tenders versus search committees. It's very detailed.
Oh, she knows her stuff here. This is, high-level administrative law. It's impressive.
But then there's this incredible whiplash. She pivots like on a dime from that legal analysis to attacking Ehud Barak for being a racist.
Yeah, that transition is a disaster.
It felt like we jumped from a university lecture to a bar fight in like 2 seconds.
It completely kills the narrative flow. She's building this really careful case about the system, about how unelected bureaucrats accumulate power, and then suddenly it's about whether Ehud Barak is a bad person.
And it gets confusing. Like, is the problem the structure of the civil service? Or is it that Barak said something offensive?
Right. It dilutes the power of her legal argument. You can't ask the audience to follow you down this complex legal rabbit hole and then just, pivot to what feels like a talking point from the news cycle.
So what's the fix? Is it just about structuring it better?
It's all about grouping. She needs to finish one argument before starting another. Finish the meal before you bring out dessert.
So keep all the systemic stuff together. Finish the point on the Attorney General, the Commissioner, all of it. Let that sink in first.
Let that legal reality land, and then use Barak as the proof.
Ah, okay.
As the evidence for the mindset behind the system.
That's the bridge sentence she's missing. You don't just say, and another thing, Barak is a racist. You say, and this elitist mindset, this idea that the public can't be trusted. It's not just in the courts. We hear it echoed in the voices of the old guard, like Ehud Barak.
So his comments become an illustration of the rule of clerks ideology.
Exactly. It connects the character attack back to the constitutional crisis she was just describing. It creates a unified theory.
The theory being, they rig the committees because they fundamentally don't trust you, the voter, the very demographic Barak is talking about.
Now it's a cohesive worldview. And it stops feeling like just a laundry list of unrelated grievances. Right. And that idea of a deep state with a specific worldview that flows right into her defense of General David Zini.
It does. She argues there's a smear campaign to stop him from leading the Shabak.
And her defense is, it's passionate, but she walks right into a trap.
She really does. She spends way too much time talking about the specific charges against Zini's brother.
The whole smuggling cigarettes to the enemy thing.
And she tries to minimize it. She says things like, The enemy begged for them. Or, I don't really see this as aiding the enemy.
Which sounds a little weak.
It sounds like she's making excuses. For a law and order politician, it feels like she's carving out exceptions for the families of her allies. You just can't do that. You lose the moral high ground instantly.
She's fighting the wrong battle.
Completely the wrong battle. She doesn't need to convince us that smuggling cigarettes during a war is actually a good thing. She needs to convince us that General Zini is being unfairly targeted.
So the suggestion is to just cut the brother loose, argumentatively speaking.
100%. Do not litigate the brother's guilt or innocence. Don't say it was humiliating the enemy to sell them cigarettes. It's not a winning argument.
So the line should be something more like, look, whatever the brother did is a matter for the police. Lock him up if he's guilty. The real issue here is
the timing.
The timing of this leak.
Yes. Why is this story about his brother from years ago coming out right now, the moment he's up for a promotion? That's the question.
It shifts the focus back to the political assassination, the deep state methods.
It makes them look petty and vindictive instead of making her look soft on crime. It's a much stronger position because it holds up even if the brother is, the worst criminal in the world.
It appeals to a basic sense of fairness. We don't punish people for what their relatives did.
Right. And it keeps the critique focused on the establishment's tactics, which is her core strength.
Okay, that brings us to the heaviest part of the whole piece. October 7th. She is clearly furious. I mean, the emotion is just raw. She wants accountability.
The emotion is there, no doubt. But the critique itself it's a bit scattershot.
How so?
Well, she kind of oscillates between two different accusations. On one hand, she implies malice, a cover-up. On the other, she says maybe it was just incompetence, a fear of miscalculation.
Right. She even says, I prefer they were just stupid.
And at the same time, she's attacking the generals and the idea of an inquiry and Justice Ahmet specifically. It feels like she's firing a shotgun in the dark.
She's hitting everything, but nothing is landing cleanly. Is she angry because they're traitors or because they're fools? The ambiguity kind of weakens the demand for accountability.
It does. If you say maybe they were just stupid, you actually give them an out. If you say maybe it's a conspiracy, you risk sounding fringe. She needs to stop guessing about the why.
And focus on a single undeniable fact.
The timeline.
The timeline.
The timeline is the entire weapon, specifically the fact that the Prime Minister was not woken up at 1 o'clock a.m. That is the single most damning, concrete fact in this entire story.
So instead of a broadside against the conception.
And that she should just hammer that one point. That should be the anchor for the whole section. The only question that matters for any inquiry is, why was the Prime Minister allowed to sleep when there were clear signs of an attack at 1 a.m.?
And that becomes the weapon to disqualify Justice Ahmet.
Now you're talking. This is how you make the argument lethal. You don't disqualify Ahmet because he's a so-called liberal or clerk. You disqualify him because he is part of the system that will never, ever ask that question with any real force.
So the argument becomes, Justice Ahmet inherently assumes the establishment is reasonable. He is psychologically incapable of asking the hard question, why did you let the Prime Minister sleep while the country was about to burn?
That is so much more powerful. It transforms the objection to Ahmet from, a political preference into an urgent matter of national security. It tells the listener, if this man leads the inquiry, we will never find out what happened at 1 a.m.
And it solves that malice versus incompetence problem too. It basically says it doesn't matter why they failed. The silence about the failure is the real crime now.
It unifies everything. It focuses the beam. It leaves the listener with one single, haunting, unanswerable question.
So, looking at this whole monologue, the raw material here is it's incredibly strong. She has the facts. She has the passion.
Her technical expertise is off the charts. I mean, she knows the files inside and out. But I think that's also part of the problem when you know so much.
Yeah, you want to say everything.
You want to fight every single battle at the same time. You want to win the brother cigarette case, and the Barrack is a bad guy case, and the Supreme Court procedure case, all in one breath.
And that's where the discipline has to come in. You have to sacrifice some of the smaller arguments to make the big ones hit harder.
You have to. You have to be willing to sacrifice the cigarettes weren't that bad point to save the much more important General Zini's being targeted.
Okay, so if we were to boil this down to the core actionable takeaways for her, what are they?
Okay, number one, for the Supreme Court, stop reading their mind. Analyze the procedure. Don't say plot. Say paralysis.
Number 2, on structure. Group the systemic critiques. Use the character attacks as evidence for the systemic rot. Don't let them interrupt the flow.
Third, with General Zini, stop defending the brother. It makes you look compromised, attack the tact, the leak, the timing, the guilt by association.
And finally, on October 7th, sharpen the blade, focus relentlessly on that 1.00 a.m. timeline, and use that one specific failure to disqualify any insider from leading the investigation.
Right. These changes don't alter her core message at all. They just make her arguments bulletproof.
It's about stripping away the weak points that opponents can easily attack.
And reinforcing the points that are simply impossible to deny. It's the difference between a passionate rant and a closing indictment.
And with stakes this high, an indictment is what's needed.
Yeah, I would love to see a rewrite. If she can really nail that governance limbo argument, that could be a game changer.
Listener, this was some incredibly powerful material to work with. Thank you for sending it in. We're really looking forward to seeing what you do with it.
Keep at it.
Until next time, this has been The Critique.